Alright guys, we are going to do the exponent factoring test review. So, first of all, we're going to simplify your answer and do exponents. So the laws of exponents are going to come in handy. If you have those notes, that's what you need to use. So, number one, 3n times 3n is going to give you, you're going to multiply 3 and 3, 9n squared. Okay, hopefully that one was easy. Your laws of exponents, when your exponent is 0, that is always going to be 1. So this is the same as saying 2 times 1 times 2 times 1. So that would be the same as 4. Okay, hopefully that one was easy. Now we get into a few that are a little bit more difficult. We'll do the odds. So I've got, first of all, I'm going to do my exponents. I've got a 3 exponent here. So I need to make sure that I distribute that out. So 3 times, this would be 2 to the third. Then x, I multiply my exponents when they are to the power, when it's an exponent to an exponent. So negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Y to the 4th to the 3rd is going to be y to the 12th times 2, 5, or 2x to the 5th, y to the negative 4th times negative x to the 5th. Okay? So now I'm going to start putting my negative exponents in the denominator and combining my like terms. So 2 cubed is going to be basically 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So I have 8 here. Now I'm going to put my negative exponents in the denominator. So here x is to the negative 15th, so that's going to go into the denominator. Then y to the 12th times 2 x to the 5th. Now I've got y to a negative exponent, so I'm going to put that in the denominator. Y to the 4th, and it becomes positive. This negative is not a negative exponent. This is actually a negative 1 or a negative number. So since it's a negative 1, I'm just going to put my negative in front there. Then times that by x to the 5th. Now I can start combining my exponents. So I've got 8, negative 8, and 2. So that's going to give me negative 16. Then I have, but I will do it one step at a time. Well, y12 to the y4 is going to be basically the same as y12 minus 4, so that's going to be 8 x to the 5th times x to the 5th. I'm going to add those exponents. When I add x to the 5th, x to the 5th, and when I multiply x to the 5th times x to the 5th, I'm basically adding those exponents. So I get x to the 10th. And I just like to put them in alphabetical order because that's the way. Divided by, at the bottom, x to the 15th, because I already took care of the y's. Sorry, that's kind of jumbled. Now I've got x to the 10th and x to the 15th. The bigger number's on the bottom, so my answer is going to be negative 16, y to the 8th, divided by x to the 5th. It does get a little confusing. You just need to make sure you take it one step at a time. Okay, moving on to number 5. I've got 2 bu to the 4th, and then I'm going to work out this first. So 2 to the 3rd power, v to the 12th power, times negative u. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. V to the negative 3. Then when I start to put it, my exponents, the negative exponents, I flip them upside down. So I'm going to get 2v u to the 4th. I'm just rewriting this because nothing changes here. 2 to the 3rd we know is 8. V to the 12th. Now we've got negative u to the 9th power, to the negative 9th, so I'm going to put that up in the numerator, and v to the 3rd power, that's negative, so I'm going to put that up. Now I'm going to combine my top terms, v to the 1 power and v to the 3rd power will give me v to the 4th, v to the 4th, and I'm sorry, u to the 4th and u to the 9th gives me u to the 13th. And then we have our denominator has not changed. So then we get 2 divided by 8 is negative 1/4. V to the 4th over v to the 12th is going to give me v to the negative 8, which then would go down in the denominator, and u to the 13th. Okay. Alright, hopefully you can do those on your own. Okay, now we're going to factor out each expression. I'm going to look for the greatest common factor. Looks like it's going to be 7. So I'm going to factor out 7, and it looks like I can factor out at least 1r. The biggest exponent is 1, so I can factor out 7r. I'm left with 9 here minus 2r here plus 7r to the 3rd. That's my answer. Okay, moving down here, I'm going to look 42, 7, 48, and 8. Now these are telling me to factor completely. These just said factor the common factor out, so I just need to factor out the greatest common factor. Now I'm factoring these completely, which means factor by either grouping or trinomials or difference of squares. So I need to look and see, this has 4. Since there's 4 terms, I'm going to factor this by grouping. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to group the first 2 terms together, and I'm going to group the second 2 terms together, and then I'm going to find what is common between those. So looking at this, I know I can factor out a 7x. Remember to always factor out your variables if you can. I'm left with 6y minus 1. I'm going to bring down my addition sign, factor out an 8. And I don't have variables that I can factor out because there's no common variables within both terms. And I'm left with the 6y minus 1. I must look. If these are the same, then I've got it. Then I know I'm on the right track. But I'm not finished. I have to take these outside terms and combine them to get 7x plus 8 times 6y minus 1. This is my final answer. Okay? So you're going to do the same thing here. Alright, moving on. Now these are trinomials. So this is trinomials because they have 3 terms, and you're going to use your X method. So you're always going to factor out your greatest common factor. So when I look here, sorry, I keep moving the paper around, I see that I've got a 5 in every term, so I'm going to factor out my 5 first, and I'm left with n squared plus n minus 6. Make sure when you do that, I don't bring down 30, because I've factored out the 5, so I need to bring down my 6 as opposed to the 30. Then I'm going to use my x. I put my a times c, which is 1 times negative 6. I've got my b value, which is 1. What 2 numbers multiply to give me negative 6 and add to give me positive 1. I know that since this is positive and this is negative, my bigger number is going to be positive and my smaller number is going to be negative. So that means it can't be 6 and 1 because 6 plus 1, or 6 minus 1 is not going to give me 1. So it's got to be 3 and 2. My bigger number is going to be positive. My smaller number is going to be negative. So we go n plus 3, n minus 2. I've got my factors here. I have 1 as my a, so I don't need to divide, but I'm still not finished. I need to make sure that my greatest common factor gets into my answer. There is my answer. Alright. We'll do this one. Actually, let's just do this. This is your binomials. So I'm looking at the difference, meaning it must be negative, of squares, which means that all the terms need to be perfect squares. 16 is, the square root of 16 is 4, the square root of k squared is k, and the square root of 81 is 9. So these are all perfect squares, and there's a minus sign. So I can use the difference of squares. The square root of 16, 4k, minus 9, and 4k plus 9. That's all there is to it. Then if you were to multiply them back, you would end up getting 16k squared minus 36k plus 36k. So these cancel each other out, minus 81. That gives me 16k squared minus 81. So there you go. That's checking my answer. Alright, so you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to take the square root of 64 is 8. The square root of n squared is n. Minus the square root of 25 is 5. And you're going to take the exact same term and subtract 1 and multiply and add the other. Alright, if you have a rectangle like this, looking for the length and the width, area equals length times width. So basically it's asking you to figure out what 2 terms multiply to give you this, and you can do that by using your factoring it out and getting your a times c b, and you should end up with x minus 2 and 4x plus 3. Okay, moving on. Solving this equation, you're basically going to just combine your like terms. This is combining like terms. You got to distribute first, combine like terms, and then solve for n. Okay, you're going to get n equals negative 7. Okay, in this you need to solve for y. meaning you need to change it into y equals mx plus b form. So you move your x, and then you divide by the number in front, your coefficient of y. Your line will look like this. Okay, same with this. Okay, so same with this one. Your line will look like this, and you're going to shape it this way, but you need to solve for y. And the reason we're not doing this is because I want you guys to be able to see if you can do it without watching. This is going to be your final result, so you know if you got it correct. Alright, and on the back, finding the slope, that's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. When this is x, this is y, this is x, this is y. So this is y2 or x2 and x1 and y1. Now, you guys have had a lot of trouble with this stuff. I'm going to do this for you guys because I know you've been having trouble with this. You're looking for a point that goes through 5, 4. This would be your x, this would be your y. You're looking for a new line with a new y-intercept. So if I plug in my y in, I'm going to plug in 4. If it's parallel, my slope would be the same. So 4 would equal 1/5 times my x, which is 5, and I need a new b. I need a new b. So when I multiply this out, I get 4 equals 1 plus b. b would equal, well, I'm sorry, this is -1, so this would be -1. So I'd add 1 to that side, and I'd get b equals 5. This is my new b, but my answer has got to be in y equals my slope times x plus 5. This is my line that goes through this point and is parallel to that line. Okay, same thing here. You're going to put in your x and your y, and you would get -3 equals. Your line is perpendicular, so it's the opposite reciprocal. So your new slope would be 2 times -5, and you're looking for a new y-intercept. Okay, so figure out what b is, and then put it into y equals 2x plus your new b. All right, good luck.